Hey everybody, Dave here. Welcome to Dave Tries to Fix Stuff, channel dedicated to the repair, restoration, and resurrection of broken stuff. Today's episode is hopefully going to be a simple and easy one. I've got a board here, the guts essentially, of a Marshall MG10cd. It's a little practice amp that I picked up quite a few years ago. For the most part, I was at a pawn shop and I ran across it. This is it right here. This is a picture of it. I mean, this has been printed up for. I'll tell you why I have this printed up like this in just a bit. This is actual size right here for the amplifier. I picked this thing up for the most part because I had built a little Marshall-inspired head, and just for the fun of it, I bought this thing at a pawn shop for literally like $12, and I got it so that I could use, like the corner pieces and the handle on top, the Marshall logo, the knobs, all that kind of stuff on this little build that I had. And when I was done, I was basically left with what was essentially just a chassis and the board and the transformer and all that. And then at some points I actually had cannibalized this board for a couple of parts. There was this high wattage, and it's actually an extremely, I don't even know why I would have pulled this, but this is like a 0.1 ohm high wattage resistor that in this circuit, I'll show you where it is on the schematic in just a little bit, but it's basically like a ground reference for the speaker. And then there was a little cap here that I pulled as well. And this, like most other projects that I have that I've been wanting to work on. The reason that I actually started this channel was I had so many projects that I would start and then either get stuck on, or there'd be parts I'd have to buy, or I would just kind of get bored with that particular project and move on to another one, and because I have the friggin' attention span of a squirrel. But one of the things I figured that would really help me would be if I had a small amplifier, just an easy solid state amplifier that I could plug into to test things like preamps and stuff like that. And this particular one, this MG10cd, actually has an input right here that bypasses all the guitar tone shaping circuitry and just goes right to the power amp in it. So I figured if I could utilize this thing, it would be a great tool. The problem is over the course of the years, I cannot find now this particular cabinet anymore, and I can't find the chassis anymore. So I was trying to come up with an idea as to how I could mount this thing. I was thinking I could put it in a cigar box, which would work, but I would still have to kind of cut a chassis for a couple of reasons, because I need to have a ground plane on it, and I also or a ground reference that I could have the transformer attached to ground for this guy, which is a ground reference. I need something to work as a heat sink for the power transistor here, and the little op amp thing. So I need something in here that's going to be metal that I can use. And I was out at doing like a secondhand store thing with my daughter. We like to go to, Salvation Army and Goodwill and all that kind of stuff. And I actually found this guy, this cool little Avengers Lunchbox for, it was like, I don't know, $2, something like that. Perfect shape. And I thought, you know what? That will probably work just fine as far as fitting this stuff in here and being able to house this and having a cool looking little amplifier head that I can utilize for the purposes of testing preamps and stuff. And I also have a speaker cabinet that I'll be utilizing as the speaker for this, and I'm going to do a couple of things to that too, and that'll be in a subsequent video. But today we will concentrate on getting this thing rehoused in this lunchbox. So if that sounds like something you want to be a part of and watch and maybe learn something, stick around and we will get to it. So I figure what I need to do is I have to figure out how I want this to fit in here. I was thinking I wanted to put it where the controls were kind of on the front here. That'll work. So that's how we're going to do it. I will put the controls going through right here on the top, and then the transformer can be down here right where Iron Man is. But the reason, and I do want to do this on the back, I'm thinking. Not on the front. I want to do it on the back. So if I do have to ever work on it and I open it up, it's not bringing down the whole thing. It'll be right here in the back, so I can open it up and kind of see what's going on and poke around in it without having to have this thing in some weird, unbalanced way of working on it. So I'll put it on the back there. But that is why I actually printed this thing up. I got the picture of this thing. What I did was I looked up online a photo of this, and then I can't remember where I found it, but I looked up somewhere where they had the dimensions for the chassis. Got this thing into, I think, Microsoft Publisher or something like that, where I set up a page or a paper, whatever they call it, the dimension paper that fit the size of this thing. So I was able to put this particular picture, copy it off the internet, post it into Publisher, and then stretch it in the correct directions until I got, from here to here and from here to here, matching the exact dimensions that were posted online. And then when I printed it up at actual size as opposed to fitting it on the page, which is why part of it is cut off. But knowing that I had this then should be the exact size of the front of the real amp. So if that's true, I can cut this part out and use that as a template across the front to drill the holes where I need them. And I did, I took this thing when I found it and sized this thing up, and it does in fact match. Before I speak too soon, it does match pretty much exactly with what I have on here. There is just a little bit slight on one spot where it looks off just a touch. But the good thing about that is I can come back in and just make adjustments with like a red pen or something, so I still have the exact pinpoints of where I need these to be, and I can use that for the template. So let me go get some scissors, and I need a marker or something so I can mark this up correctly, get some tape and all that, and I can get this on here and I can start drilling for this thing. Then I can drill for the holes on the transformer down here. But anyway, let me go get that stuff, and I will come back and we'll start drilling. So as I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, and I'm getting the stuff put together to start marking this thing and drilling it, it hit me that I said earlier that I cannibalized parts on this thing, and I had subsequently replaced the parts with with new components, but I've never tested this thing. So at this point, I have no idea if this thing even works. So I think I should test it before I start drilling and going through all the trouble of recasing this thing. I need to see if this even works. I don't have this thing hooked up to a heat sink, so I'm not going to turn it on for very long. But I do want to see if it actually works. So I've got a plug over here in my my Variac hooked up to the leads, the primary leads of the transformer, and I've got an 8 ohm speaker hooked up to the output leads, which I had also added at another time. So theoretically, if I get this thing turned on, this Variac turned on and up to 120, I'll dial it up real slow, so in case there is something that's wrong with it, I won't, start a fire. But I want to get it plugged in and see if it actually works. So let's see what we've got here. All right, so I'm up to about 70. It's got no pulse, but let's turn that up. I don't know what so I've got volume, contour. That's my tone. That's my gain. That's just my volume for this thing. Getting feedback in it, I think. Yeah, that doesn't sound good. What does that do? Yeah, that's not sounding right. So it's a good thing that I actually got that thing. Decided to test this. I'm gonna have to figure out what's wrong with it. It could, you know what it is? It might be that I'm not grounded. That is a possibility. I don't have any ground reference. Let me think on this for a second. There's something I'm gonna look up real quick, and I'll be right back. All right, so I'm getting squeal on this thing, the preamp. What I'm going to do though, because this has, like I said, the reason I want to do this is because this has an input for a CD player or whatever. So I'm thinking what I can do, if I want to test to see if there's something wrong with the power amp or if it's preamp or whatever, which I'm suspecting is preamp. But I don't want to get dinged for copyright, so let's see if it actually works. Okay, so it's working. And I don't think this. Yeah, that's the thing. There's no. So there's no control over the volume actually on the board itself. Everything that comes in on that is going to be controlled by whatever you're doing the input on. But that's good because that narrows it down. That squeal is not coming from anywhere in the power amp section. It's coming from the preamp section somewhere. So I know at least one of the components that was put back in is not the problem. I don't know if the other one is or not. I think I might actually. Do I want to cut that out? Okay, sorry, we'll do that. I think I might clip. I don't know if that. Let me look at the schematic on this thing, and I can try to see where everything's going to come from. So, and I'll unplug this then too. Let me look at the schematic. All right, so here's the schematic on this thing. And the two components that got taken out and replaced. This is one of them right here. I don't know if you can see. My camera doesn't want to go down anymore. But you can see this guy right here. Like I said, is a 0.01 ohm resistor, and it's just like a ground reference essentially for the speaker. And then the other one was right here. This guy right here, which is in the overdrive section. So when so that shouldn't have anything to do with, son of a bitch. Yeah, this shouldn't have anything to do with the squeal if it's on the clean channel, because the way these things open and shut, the overdrive button opens and shuts on this thing to where when it's on the clean channel, it comes through here. This breaks that open. It doesn't go through there, so that's going to nowhere. And then it only comes into play when these things switch over. So I don't think there's any reason as to why that should be doing that. But at least we've taken out the power amp as being part of the problem. I don't think it's somewhere in the preamp, in the input stage or something like that. Let me go over the board again and see if I miss anything. All right. Well, at this point, I'm still getting squeal. I changed to a different speaker. I got to think it's a grounding issue. So once I get everything grounded, it should be fine. So I'm going to start getting this thing drilled out and all that, and we'll get this thing mounted, and hopefully we'll have a working amplifier at that point. Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? So, all right, we'll be right back. Okay, ran into a little bit of a problem on this. I got everything put back together and started to try to test it. And when I put it in there, or put the thing and got everything hooked up and all that, I was getting zero sound, absolutely no sound. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. I was like, did I miss something, this, that, and the other? And what ended up happening was, looking at this guy, this is a TDA 2030 op amp, little IC here. This is pretty ubiquitous as far as all these little, lower end, cheap little practice amps and all that. They almost all have one form of or another have this TDA 2030 in there. I think they also have a TDA 2040 that you can use too. But this guy, I don't know if you'll even be able to see it. Let's see if I can zoom in here. But you can see the leads actually snapped on it. So I'm gonna see if we can get that to focus. The leads snapped on it there. So I guess that happened when I was trying to get that thing, bolted down and screwed down on that thing as a heat sink. So I'm gonna go ahead and order. These things are cheap. I think that I can get 10 of them delivered for a few bucks. So, and I ordered a slew of them, because these are actually, you can use these in just about everything. So, sorry for the camera work. But anyway, I've got more of those on the way, and they should be here by the weekend. So that's going to be a few days. I'm sitting with my thumb up my butt for this. Anyway, once I get everything situated with my Lunchbox here, I'll finish that up, and we should be able to get this thing running again. So I'll see you guys in a bit with that. Just a quick note too, saying, I said these things were ubiquitous. I've got two other boards here out of a couple other little practice amps. This one is out of this one's out of a Fender, like a Frontman 15, I think 15G, and this one is out of a little practice amp by Drive. Funny thing is, I told you when I take these things out, I end up cannibalizing them for parts, because I get this kind of stuff. I'll get them in trades or just find them for $5 at like a garage sale or something. And I actually thought I would look at these. You know what? I said, I think I have a couple of those. Let me see if I can find them. And the sad part is on both of these, I did have some TDA 2030s, one right there and one right there, right there in the back. But they both have been busted off, and I think that's just because these boards I just threw into a box, and they just got knocked around, and waiting for me to steal parts off of them. So that sucks. If I would have been more careful with these, I might have been able to just steal one off of one of these instead of having to order them. And just because I'm actually impatient, I may go through and look through all my stuff and see if by chance in any of my parts, if I happen to have one of those ICs somewhere. But either way, I just thought I'd show that and so you get an idea what I'm talking about. But I'll see you guys in a bit. Okay, so I'm going to finish this up. I went to go get the grommets that I had from my pop's house, but I couldn't find them. So I went by Harbor Freight and got another box. They're cheap. I wasn't real worried about it, and I can always use these I'm always using grommets and stuff for stuff like this, so not a big deal. But I knew I also had to get a power cord for this and a plug to put at the end. And Harbor Freight doesn't carry anything in the way of because normally what I'll do is I'll get the bulk 3 lead cable, I don't know, 30, 40 feet of it, and I can just cut to the length I want. And that stuff's not altogether cheap. I mean, I want to say it's something, depending on the gauge you get, it ends up being, I think the cheapest I found it is like 75 or 80 cents a foot, something like that. So, but you know, it's good quality electrical cable, but it's still, you know, I didn't want to have to go all the way to Lowe's. I was already at Harbor Freight, so I actually found they had this at Harbor Freight, which is just like a 10-foot extension cord. And normally I wouldn't want to get it in orange like this because, you know, I want to get a black cable. But I figured, you know, what the hell? I mean, it's an Avengers lunchbox, so this was $5, and it's already has this on the end of it, so I don't have to worry about getting one of these to put on the end of it. So that made it worth doing. So this is what I'm going to end up using. I'm going to cut the end off here of this thing. I'll leave a little bit of a lead on this to where if I need to use this again on something, I can. But I can use this as my electrical cord for this. I don't think I filmed it yet, but I put in the fuse holder in this thing. And I looked up, I think this takes I think it said somewhere this takes a 160 milliamp fuse, which I don't know. I think I got 150 milliamps or maybe 200 milliamp, something like that. But I have a fuse I'm sure I can put into that thing. But I installed that and put the hot side in, so now it's just a matter of getting the grommet in here. I probably have to do a little more drilling of this thing to make that a little bit bigger. But get this installed, and then I think this thing should be working. So once I get that done, we'll come back and we'll see if we can get this thing to actually work and not squeal. So we'll do that. I'll be right back. Okay, after a lot of poking around and trying to figure out what the hell was wrong with it, it's finally at the point where it's working. I mean, it's not. I mean, I'm still getting a little bit on this side. If I turn up I'm just thinking this has got to be some kind of a feedback or something. And you know, it's going to happen. It's nothing I can do about it. I wanted to have this thing functioning, obviously, but it's not that big of a deal if it's. I'm not going to use this as a guitar amp. This is going to be something where I'm utilizing this CD input here just to test preamps. So it's not that big of a deal. But anyway, it does work now. Take a quick look inside of this thing so you can kind of see everything I did. I'm going to turn it off. Turn this part off too, and I can unhook the speaker from here. But you can see I've got the cord there, comes inside. It's it works. It's not the most beautiful thing that's ever been made, but it works just fine. And hey, I'm happy with it. I'm glad I've got something to use. This is really weird though. Looking at this thing, I thought I put this thing in straight, and I'm looking at this, and this side of it is actually, there's more room here than there is over here. So it's like this board actually kind of goes up at an angle. That's quality craftsmanship for you. I did end up, because I didn't want to mess with the when I got this thing, this IC that I put in here that I had delivered, I actually realized that I didn't have any more nylon bushings to put in there. Excuse me. So I wasn't able to utilize the lunchbox itself as a heat sink. So all I did was I drilled a small hole in this board. There was a part where I had room to drill just through the wafer, and I wasn't hitting any traces. And I just mounted it with a stand, a little offset stand there, and then just hooked up this heat sink that I had to the, which of course that's messing with it now. Hooked up the heat sink I had to this thing so it would dissipate the heat properly. And this isn't touching anything at this point. It's it's for what's gonna. It's not. I'm not going to be transporting this thing around, so it's going to go up on top of my shelf, and then that'll be it. So it'll sit here. It'll work nice. It'll serve the purpose it's meant to serve, and I'm happy. And I got one more project in the bank. So you know what? Actually, here's what we can do. Hold on one second. I'll be right back. All right. I just wanted to do a quick little demo of what it is, of what I've got here. So I've got it plugged back into the speaker. I've got a, going into the CD input, going down to my iPhone. I have some music on here, hooked up to this speaker, little speaker cabinet here, and do a little. See, so it works. I am noticing, because of the fact that this is a stereo signal going in here, and it does hook up to a stereo. It does hook up to a stereo input, but it sounds almost like it's going in and out of phase as it sweeps across the stereo spectrum on here. So I'm going to imagine that it shouldn't really affect anything with what I'm going to use it for, though, because I'm just going to use it for a mono signal coming in from guitar preamps. So, but at the end of the day, we end up with the input volume for the clean channel select button, gain for the overdrive channel, volume for the overdrive channel, the tone, CD input, headphones, and then obviously our on-off switch. So simple, straightforward. Avengers rock. Oh, I've got the fuse down here too. I put in a 150 milliamp fuse, which is what it called for. So, but I'm more than happy with how this turned out, and hey, it's going to serve its purpose. So, anyway, I'm going to actually get to work on this speaker cabinet. I've got a couple things I'm going to do with that, and again, that's coming up in another video. So, hopefully you guys will be around to see that one. Until next time, thanks for sticking around. Subscribe if you like what you see. I'm going to try and put out videos as often as possible, and we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot for watching Dave Tries to Fix Stuff.